Stop being so dramatic, Aurora. Your ring gave Clarissa the adventure of a lifetime, my father Vincent said, satisfaction dripping from every word as he reclined in his leather chair. You should be thanking us for putting that expensive rock to good use while you were laid up. The surgical bandages beneath my shirt pressed against fresh incisions as I stared at him, my mind refusing to process his words. They'd sold my wedding ring, my $25,000 wedding ring. The last gift my late husband Nathan gave me before cancer stole him from this world. And they'd done it while I was unconscious on an operating table, fighting for my life. If you're already feeling that rage building, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Formidable Revenge and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because you're not going to believe where this story goes. Trust me. My name is Aurora Mitchell, and I'm 37 years old. 3 weeks ago, I underwent emergency surgery to remove a massive tumor from my abdomen. The doctors said I was lucky they caught it when they did. Recovery meant weeks of bed rest, which is why I'd made the catastrophic mistake of staying with my father, Vincent, and younger sister Clarissa in their Phoenix home. What I didn't know was that they'd been waiting for exactly this kind of opportunity. You sold my wedding ring? My voice came out hollow, distant. Nathan's ring? Clarissa bounced into the room at that exact moment, her skin bronzed from tropical sun, designer shopping bags dangling from both arms. At 29, she'd always been Vincent's golden child, the daughter who could do no wrong, even when everything she touched turned to failure. Aurora, you're finally up and moving around. She rushed over, and I caught the scent of expensive perfume. I just got back from Bali. 3 weeks of absolute paradise. The private villas, the infinity pools, the sunset yacht cruises. I still can't believe it was real. 3 weeks. The same 3 weeks I'd spent in a hospital bed, alone, except for nurses checking my vitals every 4 hours. The same 3 weeks my family visited me exactly twice, both times asking when I'd be discharged and whether I needed anything from home. My hands trembled as the pieces locked into place. Bali, I repeated softly. Dad surprised me with the most incredible gift, Clarissa gushed, completely oblivious to the horror unfolding. He said you wanted me to have this vacation since I'd been working myself to the bone at the property management office. Wasn't that sweet? Vincent's eyes locked onto mine, challenging me to object. Clarissa deserved that trip, Aurora. She's been struggling financially, and you've always had everything handed to you. Time you contributed to this family for once. Something cold and calculating settled into my chest, pushing aside the initial shock. There was something they didn't know about that ring. Something that would destroy them both. And as I smiled sweetly at their satisfied faces, I felt the first stirrings of a revenge so perfect, so devastating, that it would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Growing up in the Mitchell household taught me one undeniable truth. Clarissa was the sun around which our entire family orbited, and I was merely a distant, forgettable moon. Our mother died when I was 15, leaving Vincent to raise 2 daughters alone. But instead of treating us equally, he chose his favorite with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Throughout high school, Clarissa received a brand new Lexus for her 16th birthday, while I bussed tables at a diner to afford a rusted Honda Civic. She got European vacations. I got lectures about financial responsibility. When I graduated summa cum laude from Arizona State University and landed my position as Senior Research Coordinator at Sterling Biotech, Vincent's response was a distracted, "That's nice." When Clarissa dropped out of college after 18 months to pursue influencer opportunities that never materialized, he called her a visionary and increased her monthly allowance. The pattern never changed. My wedding to Nathan 5 years ago? Vincent complained about every expense and suggested we elope in Vegas. When Clarissa announced her engagement to a man she'd known for 6 weeks, Vincent immediately offered to fund a destination wedding in Cabo. That engagement imploded within 4 months, but the wasted money was never mentioned. Nathan had been my sanctuary from the dysfunction. A brilliant pharmaceutical researcher at Sterling Biotech, he'd understood what it meant to feel invisible in your own family. We built a life together, based on mutual respect and genuine love, something I'd never experienced in Vincent's house. When Nathan was diagnosed with aggressive stage 4 lung cancer at 33, our world shattered. 18 months of brutal treatments, experimental therapies, and desperate hope. I burned through our savings on specialists and clinical trials. Vincent never offered a single dollar, claiming Clarissa's lifestyle consumed all his discretionary income. During Nathan's final weeks, as I sat by his hospital bed holding his hand while he struggled to breathe, Vincent actually called to suggest I should move back home after the funeral because Clarissa could use the company. Nathan's final gift arrived 2 months before his diagnosis, a stunning platinum wedding ring he'd saved for months to afford. 3-carat center diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught light like captured stars. "I want you to have something beautiful that reminds you you're loved," he'd whispered, sliding it onto my finger during our anniversary dinner. "Promise me you'll wear it always." After Nathan's funeral, the comments started immediately. Vincent mentioned how impractical expensive jewelry was for a widow. Clarissa photographed my ring whenever she thought I wasn't looking, making pointed remarks about how she'd never be able to afford something so exquisite. Their interest intensified over the following year, especially as Clarissa's financial situation deteriorated. Failed business ventures, maxed-out credit cards, and an expensive lifestyle she couldn't maintain left her drowning in debt, and somehow, that became my problem to solve. 3 months before my surgery, the tumor diagnosis came like a lightning strike during a routine physical. My doctor discovered an abnormal mass the size of a grapefruit pressing against vital organs. Emergency surgery was scheduled, requiring a 3-week hospital stay, followed by 8 weeks of recovery. Against every instinct screaming warnings in my head, I agreed to stay with Vincent and Clarissa during recovery. I needed help with basic tasks, and I had no one else. But I'm not stupid. I know my family. 2 months before surgery, I walked into Anderson & Cole Fine Jewelry in downtown Phoenix with a specific mission. The jeweler, a meticulous craftsman named Gerald, examined my wedding ring under his loupe before looking up with professional appreciation. "This is exceptional work. The clarity, the cut. Your husband had excellent taste. What can I do for you?" "I need an exact replica," I said calmly. "Cubic zirconia, but identical in every visual detail." Gerald's eyebrows rose slightly, but years of discretion kept him from asking questions. "For insurance purposes? Something like that." $300, and 2 weeks later, I held a fake ring so convincing that even experienced jewelers would need specialized equipment to immediately detect the fraud. The weight, the brilliance, the way it caught light, all perfectly mimicked. I placed my authentic ring in a safety deposit box at Desert Trust Bank under my maiden name, Aurora Caldwell. The box was rented with cash. The record showed an address from before my marriage, and only I knew it existed. For 2 months, I wore the replica every single day. Vincent and Clarissa never noticed the switch. I removed it naturally when washing dishes, applied lotion, did anything I'd done with the original. The cubic zirconia felt substantial on my finger and sparkled convincingly under Arizona sunlight. The day I checked into Phoenix Memorial Hospital for surgery, I deliberately left the fake ring on my nightstand in Vincent's guest room. "Too nervous to wear it during the procedure," I told him, placing it carefully in my jewelry box. "Keep it safe for me?" His eyes lingered on the ring just a fraction too long. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll make sure nothing happens to it." That moment, watching greed flicker across his face, confirmed every suspicion I'd harbored. The surgery itself was brutal. 8 hours on the operating table, 3 days in intensive care, and 17 more days recovering in a standard hospital room. Nurses commented constantly on how few visitors I received, especially compared to other patients whose families practically lived in the waiting room. Vincent and Clarissa visited exactly twice. Both visits lasted under 20 minutes. Both times, they asked about my discharge date and whether I needed anything from the house. Neither asked about pain levels, prognosis, or how I was coping emotionally with major surgery. During those long, solitary days, hooked up to monitors and IV drips, I had plenty of time to think about family loyalty and the nature of betrayal. I knew what they were planning. I could feel it in the air like electricity before a thunderstorm. But knowing and experiencing are two different things. When Vincent picked me up from the hospital after 3 weeks, Clarissa was conspicuously absent. "She's out of town," he said vaguely. "Had an opportunity come up suddenly." I nodded, saying nothing, my surgical incisions aching with every breath. 3 days later, Clarissa burst through the front door with that golden tan and those designer shopping bags, gushing about Bali's private beaches and luxury resorts. And my father sat in his chair, proud as a peacock, announcing they'd sold my wedding ring to fund my sister's paradise vacation. The theft had happened within days of my surgery. They hadn't even waited to see if I'd survive before cashing in on my most precious possession. And now, watching their satisfied smiles, I felt something cold and ruthless take root in my chest. Let them enjoy this moment. Let them bask in their victory. Because their world was about to come crashing down in the most spectacular way possible. "Tell me everything about Bali," I said sweetly, settling onto the couch despite the pain radiating from my abdomen. "I want to hear every detail." Clarissa needed no additional encouragement. She launched into an enthusiastic monologue about crystal-clear waters, private infinity pools, and couples spa treatments with her boyfriend Brett. She showed me hundreds of photos on her phone: oceanfront villas, candlelit dinners, helicopter tours over volcanic landscapes. "The resort was $1,400 per night," she gushed. "And Brett surprised me with this incredible snorkeling excursion with whale sharks. That alone cost $900. Then there was the private cooking class with a celebrity chef, the sunset yacht cruise, the day trip to the monkey forest." I calculated quickly. 3 weeks at $1,400 nightly was nearly $30,000 just for accommodation. Add international flights, meals, activities, shopping, and excursions. Clarissa's vacation had easily exceeded $40,000. "How wonderful that you could afford such luxury," I murmured, watching Vincent's chest puff with pride. "Your ring money covered most of it," Vincent interjected. "We got $18,000 cash from Donovan Fine Jewelers on Campbell Avenue. The owner, Mr. Donovan, said it was a beautiful piece. Sold it to us right there on the spot, no questions asked." $18,000, I repeated thoughtfully. "That seems fair." Vincent studied my face, suspicion flickering behind his eyes. "You're taking this remarkably well, Aurora. I expected you to throw a fit about the ring." I shrugged carefully, mindful of my healing incisions. "What's done is done. Besides, Nathan would have wanted family to support each other during difficult times, right? If my ring brought Clarissa joy, perhaps that's what matters." Mentioning Nathan was strategic. Vincent carried perpetual guilt about his absence during Nathan's illness, and invoking my late husband's name effectively shut down further questioning. Over the following days, I played the role of grateful, recovering family member while methodically documenting everything. I photographed Clarissa's vacation pictures displayed prominently around the house. I recorded conversations where Vincent boasted about solving Clarissa's financial problems with my ring money. I made detailed notes about spending timelines and amounts. Clarissa had returned from Bali exactly 3 weeks after my surgery, meaning they'd sold the ring almost immediately after I entered the hospital. They hadn't waited to see if I'd survived the operation before stealing from me. "I was so worried about you during surgery," Clarissa said one morning over breakfast, her face arranged in mock concern. "But Vincent said you'd want us to use the ring money productively. He thought it would lift your spirits knowing I was having an amazing time." Vincent nodded solemnly. "You've always been such a generous sister, Aurora. I knew you'd want Clarissa to benefit from that ring rather than leaving it locked away unused." Their ability to rewrite history was breathtaking. They genuinely convinced themselves that stealing from me during surgery was somehow thoughtful and considerate. That afternoon, I called my supervisor at Sterling Biotech to discuss return timelines. My colleagues expressed concern about rushing recovery, but I assured them I was healing well and would be back soon. Then I drove to Desert Trust Bank to check my safety deposit box. Nathan's authentic ring sparkled under fluorescent lighting, its 3-carat center diamond catching every ray with stunning brilliance. The craftsmanship was exquisite, platinum setting, flawless stones, perfect proportions. I held the ring for several minutes, remembering Nathan's anniversary surprise. He'd planned everything meticulously, getting down on one knee in the restaurant to present it as a symbol of eternal love. Tears stung my eyes, but they only strengthened my resolve. The contrast between my genuine ring and the cubic zirconia replica was subtle but significant. While the fake looked convincing to casual observers, real diamonds possessed depth and fire that no artificial stone could replicate. Any professional jeweler with proper equipment would identify the fraud immediately upon close examination. I returned the authentic ring to its secure box and drove back to Vincent's house, where Clarissa was hosting neighbors for an impromptu gathering. She'd invited half the block to view her Bali photos and brag about her exotic adventures. "Aurora's ring made it all possible," Clarissa announced loudly to the assembled crowd. "Vincent surprised me by selling it while she was hospitalized. He said she'd want me to create amazing memories rather than keeping expensive jewelry locked away." The neighbors looked distinctly uncomfortable. Several glanced at me with sympathy, clearly recognizing the grotesque inappropriateness of funding a luxury vacation with a recovering surgery patient's wedding ring. "How thoughtful," one neighbor said carefully, her tone dripping with subtle criticism that sailed completely over Clarissa's head. I smiled graciously and thanked everyone for their concern, playing my role perfectly while internally counting down the days. Because I knew something they didn't. Something that would destroy them completely. Mr. Donovan was legendary in Phoenix for his meticulous attention to detail and reputation for honest dealings. And when his customer discovered she'd purchased cubic zirconia instead of diamonds, that reputation would be in ruins. 1 week after learning about the theft, I was preparing dinner when the doorbell rang with urgent, insistent chimes. Vincent was at his weekly poker game. Clarissa was showing properties to clients. I was alone in the house, still recovering but growing stronger daily. Through the front window, I spotted a man in an expensive charcoal suit standing on the porch, gripping a small jewelry box, his face flushed with barely contained rage. My heart hammered against my ribcage. This was it, the moment I'd been anticipating. I opened the door to find a distinguished gentleman in his mid-60s, with silver-gray hair and a deeply troubled expression radiating from every line of his face. "Good evening. I'm looking for Vincent Mitchell." "I'm Harold Donovan from Donovan Fine Jewelers." His voice carried the tight control of someone fighting to maintain professional composure. "Hello, Mr. Donovan. I'm Aurora, Vincent's daughter. He's not home currently, but I can relay a message." Mr. Donovan's jaw clenched. "Miss Mitchell, I need to speak with your father immediately about a very serious matter. 3 weeks ago, he sold me a diamond ring he claimed belonged to you. I've discovered the ring is completely fraudulent." I let shock register on my face. "Fraudulent? What do you mean?" "The stones are cubic zirconia, worthless costume jewelry." His voice shook with suppressed fury. "I sold the ring to a customer 2 days ago for $22,000. This morning, she took it for insurance appraisal, and the gemologist immediately identified it as fake. My customer is threatening legal action, Miss Mitchell. My reputation, 40 years of impeccable service, is being destroyed by your family's fraud." I invited Mr. Donovan inside, expressing appropriate confusion and distress. "I can't understand how this happened. That ring was my late husband's gift. He assured me it was genuine." "Miss Mitchell, either your husband was deceived when he purchased this ring, or someone in your family knowingly sold me fake jewelry," Mr. Donovan stated firmly. "I need immediate restitution of $18,000 plus substantial damages for the professional humiliation I've suffered." At that precise moment, Clarissa burst through the front door, having returned early from work. She froze mid-step when she saw Mr. Donovan, her face draining of color as recognition hit. "Mr. Donovan? What are you doing here?" Her voice came out strangled, forced cheerfulness cracking at the edges. Mr. Donovan turned slowly to face her. "Miss Mitchell, I'm here because your father sold me fraudulent jewelry 3 weeks ago." The ring you claimed was worth $25,000 contains nothing but worthless cubic zirconia. Clarissa's mouth dropped open, genuine shock replacing her usual confident smirk. That's impossible. Aurora's ring was definitely real. She wore it constantly for years. I have the gemologist's certified report right here, Mr. Donovan said, producing official documents with embossed letterhead. Every single stone in that ring is artificial. Your father committed fraud, Miss Mitchell. I'm demanding immediate payment of $18,000 plus additional compensation for my damaged reputation, or I'm filing criminal charges tomorrow morning. I watched Clarissa's face as reality crashed through her denial. Her vacation, her bragging, her luxury memories, all funded by worthless fake jewelry. The humiliation was visible as her confident expression crumbled into confusion and mounting terror. But Aurora wore that ring every single day, Clarissa protested weakly, grasping at straws. How could it be fake? Mr. Donovan's expression remained unforgiving. That's between your family and the police. I'm here for restitution, not explanations. Just then, headlights swept across the living room as Vincent's car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I watched him park and gather his things, whistling cheerfully, completely unaware his world was about to explode. Clarissa and I stood frozen while Mr. Donovan waited by the door, still clutching the jewelry box containing the worthless ring that would destroy their lives. Vincent walked through the door, relaxed and satisfied from his poker game. His smile evaporated instantly when he saw Mr. Donovan standing in the living room, all of us wearing grave expressions. Mr. Mitchell, Donovan said without preamble, I'm here about the ring you sold me. It's completely fraudulent. Vincent's face cycled through confusion, denial, then growing panic. What are you talking about? Aurora's ring was genuine. She wore it for years. Every stone is cubic zirconia, Mr. Donovan stated coldly. I sold worthless costume jewelry to a customer for $22,000, and she's threatening to sue me into bankruptcy. Vincent sank into his chair, face draining of color. That's impossible. Aurora, tell him. Nathan bought that ring from a reputable jeweler. All eyes turned to me. This was my moment. I took a deep breath, maintaining perfect composure despite my racing heart. Actually, Vincent, I need to tell you something important about that ring. The silence stretched taut as piano wire. 3 months ago, I had my ring professionally appraised for insurance purposes. I began carefully. The jeweler mentioned how vulnerable expensive jewelry can be during hospitalizations. People unconscious, helpless, unable to protect their valuables. He suggested I consider keeping a replica for daily wear, while storing the original in a secure location. Vincent's eyes widened as understanding began to dawn. Clarissa grabbed the back of a chair for support, knuckles white. I had an exact cubic zirconia replica created, I continued, my voice steady and cold. I began wearing the fake instead of my authentic ring. The real wedding ring has been in a bank safety deposit box for months. I paused, letting the revelation sink in completely. I suspected that during my surgery recovery, someone might be tempted to exploit my vulnerability, so I protected what mattered most. The silence was deafening. Vincent's mouth opened and closed wordlessly, while Clarissa made a strangled sound of disbelief. You deliberately set us up, Vincent finally whispered, his voice trembling with shock and rising rage. You knew we'd sell your ring, so you left us a fake to steal. I protected my most valuable possession because I understand my family's character, I replied calmly. I never told you to steal from me during surgery. I never gave permission to sell my ring. You made those choices entirely on your own. Clarissa collapsed onto the couch, face buried in her hands. Oh God, we're going to jail. Brett will leave me. Everyone will know we're thieves and frauds. Mr. Donovan's expression had shifted from anger to fascination as he watched the family drama unfold. Miss Mitchell, are you saying you anticipated this theft and prepared accordingly? I hoped my family would respect my belongings during my medical crisis, I said carefully. But I took precautions to protect something irreplaceable, my late husband's final gift. Vincent stood abruptly, face red with fury. You manipulated us. You knew we needed money, and you deliberately left fake jewelry knowing we might sell it. I left my ring in my jewelry box in my guest room, I corrected firmly. You stole it without permission while I was unconscious on an operating table. The fact that you stole something worthless instead of something valuable doesn't change the nature of your crime. Mr. Donovan cleared his throat sharply. Regardless of family dynamics, I still need $18,000 immediately. My customer is demanding refunds, my lawyers are threatening action, and this situation has severely damaged 40 years of impeccable reputation. Vincent turned desperate eyes toward me. Aurora, please, you have to help us. Get your real ring, and we'll sell it to fix this mess. I smiled sweetly at my father, the same smile I'd worn when he first told me about the theft. My real ring is safely protected where thieves can't reach it. You made your choices, Vincent. Now you live with the consequences. But then Vincent's expression changed. Desperation morphed into something calculating and dangerous. You think you're so smart, he said slowly, his voice dropping to a menacing tone I'd never heard before. But you're forgetting something crucial, Aurora. My stomach dropped. I still have power of attorney documents from when you were hospitalized, Vincent continued, pulling papers from his desk drawer. You signed them before surgery in case emergency medical decisions needed to be made. Those documents give me legal access to your accounts. My blood ran cold. I'd forgotten about those papers in the chaos of preparation. I can access your safety deposit box, Vincent said, triumph creeping into his voice. I can retrieve that real ring and sell it to pay Mr. Donovan back, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Clarissa's head snapped up, hope flooding her features. Vincent, you're a genius. Mr. Donovan shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Mitchell, I'm not sure that's... It's perfectly legal, Vincent interrupted. She signed the documents herself. He was right. In my panic before surgery, I'd signed standard power of attorney paperwork, and now that weapon would be turned against me. My carefully constructed revenge was collapsing. I remained seated, forcing myself to appear defeated even as my mind raced through contingencies. Vincent and Clarissa watched me expectantly, waiting for panic to set in. Let them think they'd won. Those power of attorney documents, I said slowly, my voice carefully neutral. You're right, I did sign them before surgery. Vincent's smile widened. Tomorrow morning, we're going to that bank together, and you're going to retrieve your real ring. This entire mess will be resolved. Mr. Donovan will get his money, and we can all move on. Mr. Donovan still looked uncomfortable, but nodded slowly. If restitution can be made, I'm willing to forego criminal charges. Clarissa practically bounced with relief. This is perfect. Everything works out. And we can forget this whole nightmare happened. I stood carefully, mindful of my healing incisions. There's just one small problem with your plan, Vincent. 3 sets of eyes fixed on me. The power of attorney you're referencing only grants you medical decision-making authority, I said calmly. It specifically excludes financial and property matters. I made sure of that before I signed. My attorney at Sterling Biotech reviewed every document. Vincent's face went slack. What? You can make decisions about my medical treatment, I continued, each word deliberate. You cannot access my bank accounts, safety deposit boxes, or financial assets. That would require a completely different type of power of attorney, one I never signed. I pulled out my phone and quickly located the scanned documents. Here. See for yourself. Section 3, Paragraph 2. This power of attorney specifically excludes authority over financial accounts, real property, investment portfolios, and banking access. Vincent snatched my phone, his eyes scanning frantically. The color drained from his face as he read the actual language. My attorney insisted on that exclusion, I added. She said it was standard practice to limit medical power of attorney to purely medical decisions. Apparently, cases of financial exploitation during medical crises are disturbingly common. The room fell silent except for Vincent's heavy breathing. So, you see, I continued softly, Your plan to access my safety deposit box won't work. You have no legal authority to retrieve my ring. And now Mr. Donovan has witnessed you attempt financial fraud on top of the jewelry fraud you've already committed. Mr. Donovan's expression hardened. Mr. Mitchell, I'm filing criminal charges first thing tomorrow morning. Miss Mitchell? He turned to me. I may need you to provide testimony about this attempted financial manipulation. Of course, I agreed. I'll cooperate fully with any investigation. Vincent collapsed back into his chair, all fight draining from his body. Clarissa stared at me with something approaching horror, finally understanding she'd underestimated me completely. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice taking on steel. Mr. Donovan will file fraud charges against both of you tomorrow. You'll be arrested, fingerprinted, and booked. Your names and photos will appear in the Phoenix Herald's crime section. Your friends, neighbors, and professional contacts will all learn that you stole from your daughter while she recovered from major surgery. Aurora, please, Clarissa started. I'm not finished, I interrupted coldly. Clarissa, you'll lose your property management license when your criminal conviction becomes public record. Vincent, your financial planning clients will drop you immediately when they learn you can't be trusted with money. You'll both face civil lawsuits from Mr. Donovan for damages to his reputation. We're family, Vincent whispered desperately. You can't do this to family. You're right, I agreed. Which is why you shouldn't have stolen from me while I was fighting for my life in a hospital bed. Mr. Donovan cleared his throat. Miss Mitchell, I appreciate your cooperation. I'll be in touch tomorrow regarding the criminal complaint process. He turned to Vincent and Clarissa. You both should retain legal counsel immediately. After Mr. Donovan left, the three of us remained in the living room. Vincent and Clarissa looked shell-shocked, their confident smugness replaced by dawning horror. I'll be moving out tomorrow, I announced. I've already secured an apartment closer to Sterling Biotech. I should never have trusted you with my recovery. Where will we get the money? Clarissa's voice came out small and broken. That's no longer my concern, I replied. You created this disaster. You solve it. I walked to my guest room, each step sending pain through my healing body, but the satisfaction in my chest overrode every physical discomfort. They'd tried to exploit my vulnerability, to steal my last connection to Nathan, to profit from my suffering. And now they'd pay for it in ways they couldn't yet imagine. The next morning, 2 Phoenix Police Department detectives arrived at Vincent's house at 7 a.m. I'd already packed my belongings and was sitting in my car in the driveway when they knocked on the door. Through the window, I watched Vincent answer in his bathrobe, confusion giving way to alarm as they showed their badges. Clarissa appeared behind him, her face crumpling as the detectives explained they were there to take statements regarding fraud charges filed by Harold Donovan. I'd spent the previous evening making additional phone calls to Sterling Biotech's legal department, who documented everything for potential civil proceedings, to a family law attorney who specialized in theft cases, to 3 of Clarissa's real estate colleagues, who I innocently asked whether she'd mentioned her Bali vacation, the one funded by selling her sister's wedding ring while she was in surgery. Word spread through Phoenix's close-knit professional communities like wildfire. By noon, Clarissa's property management firm had placed her on administrative leave pending investigation. Vincent received calls from 3 of his financial planning clients demanding to transfer their portfolios immediately. The neighborhood gossip chain had already spread the story to every house within a mile radius. That evening, Vincent called me 17 times. I ignored every call. Clarissa sent desperate text messages. Please, Aurora, we'll do anything. Brett left me. My boss is threatening to fire me. We're sorry, we made a mistake. Please help us. I replied once. You made your choices, I made mine. The following week, Mr. Donovan's attorney filed a civil lawsuit seeking $50,000 in damages, $18,000 for the fraudulent sale, plus additional compensation for reputation damage and lost business. 2 of his longtime clients had left after learning he'd sold fake jewelry, and others were questioning his expertise. Vincent and Clarissa scrambled to hire a criminal defense attorney, draining Vincent's savings. Clarissa moved back into Vincent's house after Brett ended their relationship, and she couldn't afford rent. The property management firm officially terminated her employment when local news outlets picked up the story. Local woman funds luxury vacation with sister's stolen wedding ring, read the headline in the Phoenix Herald. The article included details about my surgery, Nathan's death, and the cubic zirconia swap that had exposed their crime. Social media erupted. Clarissa's Instagram comments section filled with condemnation. Her carefully curated photos from Bali, which she'd never taken down, now appeared alongside accusations of theft and fraud. 1 month after Mr. Donovan's confrontation, Vincent called from an unfamiliar number. I answered. Aurora. His voice sounded 20 years older. We're losing everything. The house is going into foreclosure. Clarissa can't find work anywhere. We need help. You needed help, I corrected coldly. You needed help during my surgery when you could have visited me, supported me, cared for me. Instead, you saw an opportunity to steal. Those are consequences, Vincent, not punishments. I'm your father. You stopped being my father the moment you sold Nathan's ring to fund Clarissa's vacation. I interrupted. You stole from me while I was unconscious. You celebrated it. You felt entitled to it. And now you're experiencing what happens when actions have consequences. Please, he whispered. I'm begging you. The ring is worth $25,000, I said slowly. The real one, sitting safely in my safety deposit box. I could sell it tomorrow and cover Mr. Donovan's lawsuit, your legal fees, and Clarissa's debts. But I'm not going to. Silence stretched across the line. That ring represents the only good thing that ever came from this family. My relationship with Nathan, who loved me when you never could. I continued. I'm keeping it as a reminder that some things are worth protecting, even from the people who should protect you. Aurora, I'm sorry. No? You're not, I said flatly. You're desperate. There's a difference. I hung up and blocked the number. 6 months later, I sat in my new apartment overlooking downtown Phoenix, Nathan's authentic wedding ring sparkling on my finger. The diamonds caught afternoon sunlight, throwing rainbow prisms across my living room walls. The legal proceedings had concluded with criminal convictions for both Vincent and Clarissa. Vincent received 2 years probation and a $25,000 fine. Clarissa received 18 months probation and mandatory community service. Both carried permanent criminal records that appeared in background checks, effectively destroying their professional prospects. Mr. Donovan's civil lawsuit resulted in a judgment of $45,000, which Vincent and Clarissa would be paying off for years. Vincent's house had been sold to cover initial legal fees, and he'd moved to a small apartment in a less desirable area of Phoenix. Clarissa was working as a waitress, her dreams of real estate success permanently crushed by her criminal record. The neighborhood shunned them completely. Former friends crossed the street to avoid conversation. Professional contacts stopped returning calls. The social consequences proved more devastating than any legal punishment. I, meanwhile, had been promoted to Director of Research Operations at Sterling Biotech. My supervisor explicitly cited my composure under pressure and strategic thinking during my recovery crisis as evidence of leadership qualities. You turned a personal betrayal into a masterclass in protecting yourself, she told me during the promotion announcement. That kind of clear thinking under duress is exactly what we need in leadership positions. My new apartment was peaceful, decorated with photos of Nathan and memories of our life together. The wedding ring sat in a display case on my nightstand, no longer hidden away, but prominently celebrated. Some people asked if I felt guilty about Vincent and Clarissa's downfall. The answer was complicated. Part of me, the daughter who'd once loved her father despite his favoritism, the sister who'd wanted familial connection, mourned what could have been. A different family might have supported me during surgery. A different father might have protected his daughter instead of exploiting her vulnerability. But that wasn't my family, and mourning fantasies was pointless. The larger part of me felt something closer to satisfaction. They'd made calculated choices during my most vulnerable moment. They'd celebrated their theft, bragged about it, felt entitled to it, and when consequences arrived, they'd tried to steal from me again to escape accountability. They'd revealed their true characters, and I'd simply documented it. Last week, Clarissa sent a letter to Sterling Biotech. Security intercepted it before it reached me, per the restraining order I'd filed. According to my attorney, the letter contained apologies and pleas for financial help, claiming she'd learned her lesson and deserved forgiveness. I threw the letter away without reading it. Forgiveness requires remorse, true remorse, not desperation. And Clarissa had never demonstrated understanding of what she'd actually done wrong, only regret that she'd been caught. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the cubic zirconia ring that started everything. That $300 replica had destroyed 2 lives and exposed a family's dysfunction. It had protected Nathan's legacy and given me freedom from toxic relationships I'd maintained out of misplaced obligation. The best revenge, they say, is living well. And I was living exceptionally well. Successful career, peaceful home, genuine friendships with colleagues who valued me, and the authentic wedding ring that proved some things are worth protecting at any cost. Nathan's voice echoed in my memory. Promise me you'll wear it always. I kept that promise. The ring stayed on my finger every day, catching light and reminding me that true love protects and cherishes, while false family exploits and betrays. Sometimes, protecting what matters most means letting destructive people face consequences of their own making. Sometimes, the greatest act of love is refusing to enable those who would destroy you. And sometimes revenge isn't a dish served cold. It's simply standing back and watching justice unfold while keeping what matters most safe from those who would steal it. I raised my hand, watching Nathan's ring sparkle in the fading sunlight. 3 carats of genuine diamonds representing genuine love, genuine sacrifice, and genuine protection. Vincent and Clarissa had wanted this ring desperately enough to commit fraud. But they'd only ever seen its monetary value, never understanding what it actually represented: love that endures, integrity that matters, and the difference between authentic and fake that goes far deeper than gemstones. They'd stolen a replica and destroyed their lives in the process. I'd protected the real thing and built a future free from their toxicity. In the end, that was the only revenge that mattered. If this story hit different, don't forget to like, subscribe to Formidable Revenge, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to protect yourself from family who should have protected you? Let me know. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best way to win is to simply let consequences do their job.